Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew meeting once again. Well, here we go, guys. These are my top 15 favorite movies of 2018, and there were a lot to choose from. Even though it really hasn't been a perfect year for movies, there were a lot of disappointing ones, but for the most part, there have been some great movies to come out this year, and surprisingly, there are still 15 that I want to count. Now, before I get into it, please don't mind the banging on the house. It's just there's housework to be done here. They're fixing the roof and stuff. So I'm sorry, but I can't help it. But trust me, it's gonna be crazy tonight over here. Like, there's gonna be a lot of people coming. So if I'm gonna make this video, I need to do it now. So that's why I'm doing it right now. But anyways, before I get into it, I do have some honorable mentions. Yes, I written all these down on my phone. So yeah, and my honorable mentions are Incredibles 2, Tully, Black Panther, Paddington 2, Upgrade, and Sorry to Bother You. And yeah, that's right. There are, let me just say, great films, but there were just 15 that I enjoyed just a bit more. And with all that being said, let's get started, shall we? Black Clansmen, directed by Spike Lee, was a really funny film, despite it having to do with the KKK, which is pretty messed up if you ask me, but no, it manages to be a smart film, having some really comedic and smart dialogue thrown in, and for the most part, it was just a blast from beginning to end. And it goes for its serious roots while also being very comedic, not being flat out dark. I mean, there are definitely some dark elements here, but for the most part, it's definitely a film that totally knows what it's trying to be and succeeds at it for the most part. And all in all, I think it's definitely a film that I'm glad I didn't miss, because I watched it when it was at the point where it was like it came out like 3 weeks ago, but and I don't know how long it's going to be in theaters for, so I better see it fast, and I'm glad that I did. Black Klansman was truly an entertaining ride from beginning to end. As for roller coaster rides, we have Avengers Infinity War. This was exactly what it needed to be. Yes, I did like this a bit more than Black Panther, and all in all, Avengers Infinity War was definitely lived up to the hype. Thanos is by far one of the best villains of the entire decade, and it has an ending that will leave you like for minutes. Like, I know that's certainly how me and everybody in the audience looked, as there wasn't any big epic opening and a big like epic finale to the ending credits. No, it was just like normal end credits that just leaves you like, what just happened? And hopefully we're going to get that answer, all those answers with Avengers Endgame. Hopefully that's going to be great as well, just like this was. The Hate You Give focuses on social commentary with both with race and stuff, and this was a film that I also found to be very dark at some parts, but it's both a heartbreaking and a heartfelt movie at the same time. And this is certainly something that I think most teenagers who are African American and in the white race should both watch, because for the most part, it was, even though it's quite long, not too long, I wasn't bored throughout a single bit of this movie. I was really interested in the characters. I was really interested in seeing what would happen throughout. After the first 30 minutes of the film, that just shocked me. Like, really, I did not expect this to have so much dark elements, just despite it being a PG-13 film. All in all, I think this was a phenomenal movie that I think more people should have seen. Love, Simon looked at like it could be a good drama film. It looked at like, I mean, it's a film about a guy who has never admitted that he's gay before. And I don't know how that was really going to play out, but surprisingly, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I had a great time at the theater. I really enjoyed Nick Robinson's performance. and as for everybody else, they did a great job. This is by far one of the funniest and most dramatic, most funniest dramedy films, drama and comedy films of the year, and it definitely manages to bring its heart in the right place and at the right time. It definitely works out like near perfectly. Like, I was really surprised at how much I loved this movie. Like, really, this is definitely a film to show that you shouldn't be afraid to admit who you truly are, and showing that in this film truly just amazed me. Like, wow. Yeah, there's people that love this movie, and there are people who just downright hate this movie. I'm one of the people that absolutely loved First Man. First Man really took me up into space, especially like near the last 20 minutes of the film. But First Man was so well directed. Ryan Gosling gives one of the best performances of the year, in my opinion. He just shows that he knows how to star in a great movie, and this certainly was a great movie. Like, I really felt like the controversy really, like, I really did not understand it, especially when I watched the movie. I mean, I didn't understand it even more. It's probably because I wasn't looking at something right, but all in all, I think this is a very well shot, very well directed, and I thought it had a really great story, film. This is definitely a film that not a lot of people talk about after its release, and all in all, I really think that it's it's definitely one of Chazelle's best. Probably not his absolute best, but one of his best. Isle of Dogs was everything I wanted it to be. I loved Fantastic Mr. Fox, as well as his live action films like The Grand Budapest Hotel and Moonrise Kingdom, and when I heard he was finally directing another animated film, I was really happy, and I'm glad that I saw it, and I'm glad that it was a great film. Surprisingly, this I thought this would be my favorite animated film of the year. Even with films like Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet, I did not think I would find an animated film that I would enjoy even more. But surprisingly, I did, and you're going to see that very soon. But as for Isle of Dogs, it's both a very funny, a very comedic, which are basically the same thing. It has very memorable characters, a great cast, and all in all, it truly had me hooked up on until the very end. It's an hour and 40 minutes of beautifully shot animation, great backgrounds and animation. It's by far one of my favorite stop motion animation films and one of my favorite animated films of the year. Yeah, found footage films really aren't that good anymore. Like, they were good when the Blair Witch Project came out, and they were revived when Paranormal Activity came out, but Searching definitely tried something new. Well, kind of recycled the Unfriended formula, but this movie was way better than that. Searching was a very interesting, had a very interesting story. Surprisingly, this is another film that got its heart in the right place. Like, I never knew that we would get a film that doesn't rely on scares or horror. It's more psychological. It had me thinking until the very end, like, what happened to this guy's daughter? Like, I think the main character, I forgot what his name is, I'm sorry. I think he was excellent in this movie, as well as everybody else. Once again, I thought the pacing was just right from beginning to end. This is something that I never thought that I thought Hollywood would ever make good again. But if they can make films like this in like the found footage psychological genre, even though it's not really found footage, I think a genre like this should definitely be in more films, just not like recycled over and over again. But Searching is a film that I feel should have made more money at the box office. I feel like more people should have paid attention to it. But either way, I cannot wait till I get this film on Blu-ray soon. Oh boy, I cannot wait to talk about this one again. I absolutely loved Annihilation. I loved Ex Machina. And when Alex Garland directed this film, I was generally excited, and for the most part, I was really satisfied. This is truly what a sci fi film should be. It should be, it should have a lot of sci-fi elements. It should have a unique story and a unique concept, and I think they hit it at just the right mark. Natalie Portman is excellent here. I think that it's a very well paced film. It's a gorgeously shot film in both its practical and computer generated effects, and for the most part, it really kept me on the edge of my seat throughout the entire film. By far, one of the best scores I've heard this year, and it both succeeds at both a sci-fi and a horror film at the same time, while being more of a sci-fi psychological film than horror. But all in all, Annihilation did not disappoint me. I can see where some users are coming from. Like, it's kind of a divisive film. Critics love this movie way more than audience did, and I love this more than audience did as well. Hereditary is another kind of divisive film of this year. But all in all, people seem to agree that it's A24's best horror film. There are people out there that like this more than The Witch and It Comes at Night. I love this movie more than those films too. Hereditary is everything I want in a horror film. Great casting choices, phenomenal direction, both emotionally and creepily, if that's even a word. I don't think it is. But this movie knows how to tell a story without using cheap jump scares like we see in every single movie. I think for the most part, the way it was paced, like, it's not a boring film, I would say. I would say it's a slow burn. Slow burn can be different from a boring film. Like, it's supposed to be slow. Nothing is supposed to happen yet until it gets there, and I think the way they did it just truly worked. And for the most part, this is absolutely nearly everything I wanted in a horror film, and throughout and over time, it just got better and better because I understand it more on the second time I watched it, because it definitely made a lot more sense. It requires multiple viewings despite its 2-hour runtime, and all in all, Hereditary was a film that I truly walked out happily with. A Star is Born was surprisingly both a critical and box office success, and for good reason. This is a film that takes the remake genre and cranks it up to 11. This movie is by far one of the best remakes I've seen in a really long time, and we do not get those a lot. I did not know this was a remake at the time, so that was even more surprising. I mean, I was really looking forward to this film when it first came out, when the trailer first released. But after hearing it's a remake, I was like, wow. Like, I didn't even know there was an original film or multiple remakes before this film. I definitely want to go back and watch them sometime. A Star is Born is both a heartbreaking film, but it's both a very emotional film throughout the movie. I thought the music was absolutely spot on, and yeah, this is definitely one of the most popular Oscar bait films today. It's definitely going to get nominated, especially for Best Original Song, because there are multiple great songs, but I think there's only going to be one. But for the most part, this is a movie I was really surprised with, and I'm glad that I did not miss it. Well, I wasn't going to miss it anyway, because I was excited for it. Eighth Grade is another great gem from A24. This is a story about a girl who is not really great with talking with people. She's more great at talking to people through a camera on YouTube. And I know it sounds like it's a silly concept, but no, it's not. This is a movie. Well, I can explain it more in my review if you want to check that out. I'm not trying to review the films here, but I just want to give my reasons for why I enjoyed this movie so much. I love the direction here, and I love basically everything about this movie. You know, this is a film that knows exactly how long it should be. It knows exactly where the heart is. It knows everything that it wants to be, and it truly succeeds at it. And it's definitely one of my favorite films of the summer. It's truly a film that I was real entertained by, at both how funny and dramatic it was. Mostly funny. It's an uplifting film, and it's truly an uplifting film that everybody out there should check out, despite its R rating. I think this is one of those R-rated films that you should still watch, even if you're younger than 17, because I actually had no clue this would be R-rated, since it didn't seem like it would be an R-rated film. But despite its R rating, you shouldn't worry about that. There's like a few F-bombs, but there's nothing really major to show. So yeah, definitely check this one out. I am never going to get over how much I adored this film. This is a film that takes a really interesting concept and really nails it. This was a film that knew exactly what it was going for. It's a horror film, it's an emotional drama at some point, at some time, and this is a movie that I don't think should exactly form a franchise. I think this should be just a film. Like, if they go into the franchise route, they're kind of pushing it a little bit. But this is a film that should just be a straight-on film, nothing big. But this movie was really big at the box office. I'm glad that it did, and it's it's definitely a film that you should stay quiet for throughout the entire movie. I mean, that's why it's called A Quiet Place. And for the most part, each time I watched it, that's exactly what I did, because this is a film with this. It's basically this year's Get Out, because John Krasinski is known for comedy, and when he took this role in a drama film or a drama horror-ish film, that really, like, just wow, comedians are starting to become great at making horror films, and this film is no exception, and it's by far probably one of the biggest surprises of the year. The biggest surprise for me is my number 3 spot. My favorite animated film of the year, shockingly, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Oh my god, this movie was so much fun. It had an excellent story, and it's by far Sony Pictures Animation's best work. And I thought it would always be Arthur Christmas, but no. No, this movie, Sony Pictures knew what they wanted to do, and this film just blew me away on every level. The animation is so spectacular. It did not slow down a minute. It did its job right in bringing a new Spider-Man into the Spider Universe, after Peter Parker isn't really Spider-Man anymore for certain reasons that I'm not going to spoil. But this is by far my favorite Spider-Man film in a really long time. I never thought I would enjoy a Spider-Man film more than Spider-Man 2. Even with Homecoming, I thought that would... I didn't think Homecoming was as good as Spider-Man 2, but this film I think is way better than both Homecoming and Spider-Man 2. Although I enjoyed Homecoming a lot, though. But no, this is the Spider-Man film that I truly feel that it's getting a franchise for sure, but it's by far the best Spider-Man in my opinion. Like, this was truly a great year for Spider-Man. Like, I'm repeating myself so many times, but you know what? I don't care, because it really was. We got the new game, and we got this film, which I did not think would be this good. You're probably surprised that I only put Mission Impossible as number 2. Like, what other film do I enjoy more? But before I get into that, Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible Fallout is everything an action film should be. Just flat out fun. This is basically this year's Mad Max Fury Road. Like, we all loved Mad Max Fury Road, didn't we? And this is by far the best installment in the Mission Impossible series. And it's very rare to find someone out there that hates this movie, because although there are definitely some. But anyways, Mission Impossible Fallout has some really excellent stunts and action sequences, some of the best of this decade. It's very well paced. It's funny. It's fun. It's everything action should be, and I'm glad that they did that. It's very well directed, gorgeously shot. Everything even this movie's kind of infamous for having that scene where Tom Cruise I think broke his ankle, but he still kept doing the scene, which is pretty impressive. It's both shocking and kind of messed up, but it was still very impressive. He would kill to make a movie this good. It just shows it right there. But what other now my number one pick is going to surprise a lot of you. But I've been thinking about this movie for ever since I saw it. I cannot get over how much I loved my number one pick. So what's my number one pick? Well, I'm about to show you right now. Yeah, guys, my pick for number one is a documentary film, Won't You Be My Neighbor? I did not feel like I was watching a documentary. I felt like I was watching an actual film. Despite Fred Rogers dying years ago, this film hit me so hard emotionally. It taught me stuff that I never knew about Mr. Rogers back then. And this is just a film that you know, I I did not feel like they were real people, the real people that were actually talking. But when I heard, when I saw that they were, I mean, it was obvious they were real people since this is a documentary film. But this is one of the best documentaries I've seen in a really long time. In fact, I don't even watch documentaries that much. The only one I probably watched was March of the Penguins, and this definitely I enjoyed a lot more than March of the Penguins. And this is definitely a documentary film that's gonna make you cry. It definitely did, especially towards the end. This is a film that really does feel like a film and not a documentary. And that's why it's my pick for best movie of the year, in my opinion. So, those were my 15 favorite films of the year. Thank you guys for a kind of mixed year, because this was definitely not the best year ever. There was a lot of stuff that happened that was very controversial, and some really messed up things happened that I'm not really going to get into. Even in my next Chat with Matt video, I don't really want to mention it because, I don't want to be sad during New Year's. Because, really, there's just been too much depression in this world. So, hopefully, I'll make my next Chat with Matt video with more hope for next year. Because next year, let's try to make it better, you guys. I really hope we get to. Hopefully, there won't be as many disappointing movies as there was this year. And I was probably gonna make a disappointing movies of the year list, but nah, I'm just gonna let slide because the video you want to see is coming up really soon. Yeah, you want to see my worst of the year list. Yeah, that's gonna be coming very soon. It's not gonna be tomorrow because I need a break from top 10s right now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.